Welcome to Smash Writing. I'm Paul. This is Justin. Today we are reviewing the animated film To Your Last Death. Explain where the hell you found this film at.
I googled horror animated movies.
There's no good backstory there, folks. Good night.
That's where I came from.
Where it comes from. But go ahead and let's talk about the plot.
The plot of this movie, we open up to a bloodbath. We see a woman, Miriam, covered in blood, carrying an axe, and we see another woman in a wicked-looking red outfit. Miriam is arrested and taken to the hospital where she's getting grilled over what happens. And she's saying that the company killed people and that her dad was the one responsible for all of this. We jump back 3 days earlier, and she's running a group called PNAC. It's Peace and Nonviolence Act Committee. She gets a call from her biggest donor, and the donor is piecing out on her, and they only got a couple months before they're going to have to downsize. And you find out that she's the kids of this guy who ran for president, and they torpedoed that. And,
For good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. You know, in today's society, he probably would have won anyway.
Yeah.
That's the saddest part, is that the timeline's still better than ours.
That is true.
You meet up with the siblings. Like, he's called them all back. He wants to see them, all of his kids, all four of his children. And we see them waiting in the lobby, and there's a lot of tension between them, and the phones are collected. The dad's name is Cyrus. He has an inoperable brain tumor, and that's when the guns are drawn.
Yeah.
He's sentencing them all to die for the sins against the family. Miriam, as the head of this turn, she's getting the worst of it, but as she is being taken away, escorted out of the elevator, we jump back to her in the bedroom, in the hospital, and the detective is not believing her. Cyrus is actually saying she's to blame for all of this, and that she snapped and went crazy. And that's when we see the mystery woman again, in red. She calls herself the Game Master. And she's offering her a chance at having a rematch. She puts a glyph on her hand and goes, "You'll have 2 hours to decide what you want to do. You can go back 24 hours with the knowledge that you have now to try to change what happens." Miriam tries to escape the hospital wing, but she's being arrested and dragged down the hall. So she obviously doesn't have a choice, and she goes back in time. And she goes back to being in the lobby with the siblings. And she tries to talk them into leaving, but they won't leave with her, and the doors are now locked and sealed. And they're all taken up, and that's when things start to change right away. She calls him out on everything, and how he has got this brain tumor, and he goes, "Well, you're not here against your will. You can leave," but she's not going to be able to leave. And there she finds herself back in that elevator, where she kind of mimics what she did before. She's about to knock the guy in the elevator shaft, but that's when the biggest change. She gets taken in the elevator shaft. And she barely escapes it, and she shunts the one guy into her place. The elevator shaft has been changed into a death trap kind of deal. And he dies, and she starts yelling like, "That's not what happened!" But she starts running through this lobby, and she gets close to where her sister Kelsey is, but she kind of like has a breakdown, and Kelsey dies again. And so we meet the bettors, the people who are betting on all of this and what's happening. You have these gods who are betting on this scenario, and the game master, her job is to make sure the game is played. She did give 3 rules. Let's see if I can find. Miriam must provide amusement. Her associates can ask for a pause in play or cry foul and get a replay on said situations. And she can interfere when she wants, but she ain't on your side. But
Does she tell that to Miriam?
Yes.
Okay. That I'm not on your side.
Well, she said she doesn't take sides.
Okay.
But her rule is final.
Gotcha.
But with her not helping Kelsey and going into like a nervous breakdown, the bettors cried foul, so the game master replayed the scenario, but instead she convinced Cyrus to go for Colin first, which gave her time to save Kelsey.
Mm-hmm.
So they save Kelsey, and Kelsey's wants to leave. She wants to abandon everybody. And I'm just trying to make. Oh yeah, the betters tried to cry earlier about Miriam escaping her trap too soon, but the game master overrules it. But anyway, the recall. So they do manage to save Colin, just barely, but that does cause a big fight. You know, was his name Jurez? Yurik. That dude's disturbing.
Yeah.
Then they have to go save their other brother, who's being asphyxiated to death if he gets math questions wrong.
You're good with your tongue.
What kind of monster is Bob? Who buys a 16-inch hoagie and a 12-inch hoagie? You know what kind of monster that is? But all of the siblings are finally together, and they take out Yurik with an air embolism. And Kelsey beats the other guy to death with an iron fist.
Not just to death, but opened them up in.
That was spectacular. But I love the animation for that. We'll get to that later. But the siblings actually reunite and they get together and they forgive each other. And as a group, they go up and they take out Cyrus and they get the key and they're about to leave when the betters cry foul. They didn't like the ending, so the game master replays the scenario.
And this time they didn't have that moment to
Yeah.
bond. So now they're not. Now they're not bonded. They're just in that truce mode.
They're still not happy with one another either for their past interactions with one another. And Cyrus manages to convince them that you can have all my money. My inheritance will be yours if Miriam is killed. So it's 6 to siblings after Miriam. I think at one point Miriam does die, but the game master replays it.
Yeah.
And the game master's like, oh, rule number 1, keep it amusing. I think it's time for you to run.
By the way, when I tell you to run,
Yeah.
run.
And she like poses as Walt at one point, her boyfriend Walt. And Walt takes an axe to the face, and that encourages her to take out the one, Colin, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And then she looks over, Walt's standing back up and transforms into the Game Master. And the Game Master's like, oh, silly girl, Walt never existed. Which means, like, that bedroom scene at the beginning. Is that the Game Master in the bedroom?
Now I was about to ask you that.
That was a great question. Like, how far back does Walt not be Walt anymore?
Yeah, like, did she say, like, if she says Walt never existed, meaning that
In
night
the-
in the building,
yeah.
he never showed up.
Or
But
was
Walt
the
is
Game
still
Master
alive.
been playing Walt the entire time? But she ends up taking out her siblings. I think only one was on purpose. That
Yeah.
was because everyone else was like an accident or some sort of
Yeah.
Game Master ploy. But it does put her and Cyrus against one another, and she butchers him bloody. And it ends with her being the sole survivor outside, covered in blood in the axe, and she drops the axe as the police arrive. And that is to your last death.
And the Game Master kind of leaves it, reveals, like, the outcome was always going to be her surviving. The
Yeah.
events, they can't change the actual, like, events. Like, Colin was going to die. Kelsey was going to die. Aaron? Was the other brother?
Yeah, I think the other brother might have been Aaron.
Okay. They physically are not allowed to change that. Like, those three were always going to die.
But they wanted a better, juicier game.
And that's what it comes down to. Is that now, the only one that threw me off, and I was texting Justin about it, was what scenario was the actual real scenario? Did they all go up there and Cyrus had them all shot?
No. The ending is she walked out alive as the lone survivor.
Right, that's
And,
always the name, but how did the brothers and sisters die? Did she kill them?
I think it was she killed them because that was the scenario that the gods were happiest with.
But the outcome was always going to be the same. She was going to be the sole
Well,
survivor.
they did change the outcome a little bit too because originally there were 2 survivors, her and Cyrus, because Cyrus was testifying against her.
Yeah.
In the end scenario, she's the last one standing.
So they technically did change it, but I think that's something, because you said this was made over like 5 years.
5 years.
I think they were just trying to piece it together at this
But
point.
I think it could have been that, or it could have just been like, no, we didn't want, like, the gods and betters did not want the sisters and brothers to live.
Yeah. So, let's talk about what's some things you didn't like about this one.
The animation was rough.
Yes.
There's no way to sugarcoat that. This is rough. I'm not hitting it hard, though. Like he said, this movie was, I got some notes on this movie. How true they are, I don't know. It's on IMDb, so take it with a grain of salt. But this was crowdfunded over a span of 5 years, and they only raised 52 grand. So the animation can be really wonky at times. Sometimes it looks like the characters are walking above the ground.
Yes. Yes.
They don't quite line up together when they're like here, but they're sitting next to each other. They don't quite look right. But I love the art style in this movie. I love the drawings. I love the eyes, the artistry. That they nail the eyes every time.
Mm-hmm.
Miriam's eyes are gorgeous. Even like when she's in like state of fright and panic, those eyes just stay with you.
Yeah.
I love the design of the Game Master with the red sunglasses that like float over, and the weird ass outfit. I thought everyone's design and looks were all really nice. The random slips in the Sin City too, where you go black and white with dashes of color.
I will agree with everything you says. Some things that I can add on that I generally enjoyed. The story itself was like awesome. Like you got Miriam going through all these events over and over again, and it's just psychological torturing her. And then she learns that she went through all this pain. It was really for nothing. The outcome was still going to be the outcome. Having the father be like in the public image, this great guy, business owner.
Yeah.
But then you got his kids, and then you even saw that he killed his wife.
You can do like a deep psychological dive on all the characters in this movie.
Yeah.
And like how they've all been affected by the abuse he laid out.
And then not only that, like him killing them, at least throughout the film, the ways that he wants them to go through and die, is just like he really thought about this. It was really just a good torture film.
Yeah.
I don't know if I told you this, but the one thing I thought to myself, if I didn't tell you this, I was like, this would make a awesome live action movie.
Yeah, if you made this live action, it would be really good.
Because like it has like.
But you got to be really careful with the director here, because you can lose that psychological edge that this movie does have, just for the gore. So while I would love to see live action, it would very much dictate who's sitting in that director chair.
Now, here's the best part. We get the graded overall review. So what
Well,
are
I'm not sure if I'm ready for the grading portion yet. Was there something else I wanted to talk about this
what
movie?
you got?
There was something else about the animation actually I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Because we always said it was rough.
Right.
But they do nail some parts.
The brains.
The brains and the gore and everything. Beside that, there's one scene in particular when she's hiding behind the little planter tree,
Mm-hmm.
and you had Angus sit down on it, and you
Right.
see it rock this way, and her body rocks with it. And then it rocks again when he gets off. So, like, sometimes, like, don't get me wrong, the animation's rough, but when they do nail the animation, they nail it right.
They picked and choose.
Yeah. I think there was some of the stuff they were able to get really good, and then some of the other stuff just didn't quite work.
Right.
So it's not a complete bash of the animation here.
Not a complete bash, absolutely. The final grade.
Hey, we'll give it an A. I can't remember what past Justin gave this, so don't go looking at the blog, because I don't remember.
Current Paul is. I'm actually going to give it an A. I'm going to give it like an A minus, so like 90%. I thought the story was great. I thought the character arcs were great. I thought the torture part was great and making her relive everything. Yeah, it was a swing and a miss really with the graphics overall, but it was enough to kill the overall film in my eyes.
Yeah, a good great analogy for that would be the graphics for this movie is going to depend on. This is like a hard ground ball down third baseline. Depending on who you are, you're either going to think it's foul or you're going to think it's good.
But until next time,
Bye bye.
bye.